What's going on, traders? Andrew O'Connell here with Pristine Capital, coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is December 3rd, 2021. Please go ahead, click that like button on this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content. Today we are going to talk about the craziness in the market on this Friday. And there's a lot to dissect here, so let's dive right in. Before we jump into that, quick first disclaimer: nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan, your own risk parameters, and last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades or anyone's trades for that matter. All right, let's dive in here. So S&P 500 closed down 0.87% as measured by the SPY. NASDAQ QQQ down 1.74%. IWM small caps down 2.05%. And we have the Dow Jones closing down just 0.11%. What's very interesting is the SPY at one point today was down, well over 1%. It was down about 1.5%. And in the last hour, the market really rallied back. Not sure if it was some short covering or what. But yeah, I think it's good that we did not close exactly on the lows. Volatility spiked in all of these indices. You can see it spiked the most in the NASDAQ QQQ. Barely even moving, surprisingly, in the small caps or in the Dow Jones. And then the breadth was negative across the board. But what's interesting is the SPY, for as crazy of a day as it was to the downside for most of the day, the breadth, it's not like we had 6% advancers like we did a few days ago. The breadth actually wasn't all that bad. So very interesting, some nuances within this data. Let's take a look at our heat map. Heat map, we had some poor performances in some of these names that have really been leading, like Nvidia down 4.46%. Tesla down 6.42%. You can see even these other mega names like Google, Apple, Microsoft, they really did not help the indices. What was pretty strong, however, was consumer defensives. You can see healthcare was pretty strong as well. And that brings us to our sector map. So let's check it out here. We had utilities actually closed positive, up 1%. That was on 1.7 relative volume. Consumer staples were also positive on a high relative volume. But then you can see, there were a lot of areas of the market that really got washed out today. So the ARK Innovation Fund down 5.54%. You can see blockchain assets down 6.33%. So really all of the more high flying speculative areas of the market really getting crushed. You can see cannabis stocks were actually up 0.11% as well. Yeah, high flyers absolutely decimated. Then you can see semiconductors were only down 0.25%. Home builders only down 0.35%. So this really was, a completely different story depending on, which area of the market you were looking at. Style factors, we're seeing the same thing. Defensives were up 0.47%. High div low vol was up 0.71%. But then you can see, momentum was down 2.17%. High beta was down 1.81%. So a lot of these risk on areas of the market really got hammered. Let's take a look at the actual indices and see what they did today. And then we'll take a look at some of those individual sectors, individual names, etc. So the S&P 500, ES. Basically, I wrote a note to Pristine Capital members this morning, basically saying, hey, my bias is up for the day, but I'm curious to see how we do at this 4,600 level. That's really like the dealer gamma flip level. So I thought it was crucial that we get above that in order to, keep this bullish momentum from the prior day. Because yesterday was a really strong update in the tape. We tested that level super early in the session. Let's take a look at this 5-minute chart. Yeah, we tested it very early right here, and we immediately failed. And I saw this first candle, we jumped inside of the daily value area. I was like, that's not good. And then we also got a jobs report this morning that showed, basically the unemployment rate went down to 4.2%. It's basically there's no reason for the Fed to delay, ending this monetary stimulus. And you can see we really just slipped into the abyss throughout the rest of the day. What's very interesting though is take a look. So we had really weak action the entire session. And I basically said, hey, in that same note, if we fail at this level, the next level up to really look at is 4,500. So let's pull that up. So you can see that right here. So yeah, basically saying here, I think the odds are favorable of short covering into the weekend. Be important to see how the market behaves at 4,600. Remember, the market's currently in a negative gamma state where moves are exacerbated with upside and downside. We get more bullish on a close above 4,600. A failure at 4,600 opens the door to a second test of 4,500. The more you test the level, the weaker it gets. So that's pretty much what we got. As soon as we failed, I was like, I gotta exit, a bunch of my risks because this could get really ugly in this negative gamma environment. And look what happened. So we got that huge flush throughout the entire day. We've pretty much, really flushed. And then you can see here, this is at about 3 o'clock, so the final hour of the session. We started to move a bit higher. We had our final flush. This is at 3:45. So with 15 minutes left to spare in the session, we just moved higher on volume. So I don't know what this was in the last 15 minutes. Like, if this was just some crazy short covering or, perhaps, just some market buying. But I think it's really interesting because, okay, we failed at 4,600. That's bearish. That means, okay, a high likelihood that we retest the other side of this range at 4,500. We tested that. We slipped below it. But then we rallied right off of it. So I think that leaves us in a really interesting position for next week, where it's like, okay, we retested 4,500. If we get some strength on Monday, let's say, some more short covering or whatever, let's say we get a positive headline over the weekend, that again puts 4,600, back on the table. So we're really just chopping around these ranges, but we did close below that 50-day moving average. My trend model is still at a -3. So yeah, this is a market where the tails on both sides, there's a lot of tail risk on the table. So it's just super important with, knowing your sizing methodology, knowing your risk methodology, etc. That way, even for me, like today, I had some trades that didn't go my way. So long as you're sized appropriately, it's okay if you mess up a few trades in a crazy environment like this. So let's take a look. S&P 500, a lot of nuance here. And then we have NASDAQ down 1.88%. The NASDAQ also was able to close above the 50-day moving average. So pretty interesting there. Let's take a look at the Russell. So it's kind of like into the close. All of a sudden we got like a little burst of strength. And then the Russell still looks pretty bad here. And then the Dow Jones down 0.18%. And one stock that really caught my eye in the morning was DocuSign. So this company, I've traded it to the upside a couple times. I've had good results trading this name. But it reported bad earnings, and the stock dropped by 42.22% today. It's almost a 50% decline. That's like what you would see with like an options contract. But yeah, this thing really just got hammered. So yeah, that let me know right off the bat, hey, when we're in this negative dealer gamma environment, these moves are no joke. And what's super interesting as well is like with this negative dealer gamma environment, like look at what some of these sectors are even doing. So like ARK was down 5.54%, really just slipped into the abyss. We did see some buying in that one into the end of the day as well. Take a look here. Yeah, now we're inside this yearly value area, so we're giving a lot back here. I actually want to pull this up. So we have the Fed. So what's really interesting is the Fed is going to be tapering. And I think what the market is kind of realizing, like we're all realizing it at the same time, is, oh my gosh, this taper is coming. There's no way we can like talk our way out of it. You know what I'm saying? And like taper's coming, Omicron, I don't even know if that's really that important to the market narrative. I think this whole sell-off, maybe the Omicron headlines triggered stuff, but I think a lot of this sell-off is really based around the Fed taper. So we know it's inevitable. So it's kind of like a lot of these stocks have just moved higher on this crazy liquidity to these insane valuations. Those valuations have to readjust. So Asana also down 26% in a single day. So huge moves to the downside in a lot of these different areas of the market. I'm sure a lot of these are going to end up being overreactions. I'm pretty sure. But it's not really our job to pick like, oh, it's an overreaction, buy into the red. We don't know how low these are going to go either. See, we have Asana looking not so good. Let's take a quick look. The dark index is looking pretty interesting. We're still in this negative gamma environment. So you can see the dealer gamma moved up a little bit, but we are still negative. Let's take a look over here. We'll pull out my trades for the day. And yeah, today was a tough day. So I put on my SPY calls the other day, and it was like, oh, okay, you know, odds are good that we move higher. And that was over here. Yeah, that was pretty much right off this candle. I entered those calls like pretty much at the lows of the day over here. Boom, got a nice move higher. This morning when I saw that rejection at 4,600, I was like, oh brother, this could be a bad day. So I closed out of my SPY 450 calls for a decent winner, closed them out for 1851, paid 1502. But then I just started taking some of my losers off. I was like, this is, you know, a time where I just want to, anything that's a big loser, you know, just pull it right off. So I closed out of XBEV. This one, you know, with China, the delisting risk, it just didn't work. I had a UVXY short trade, closed this one out as well. Pretty small trade for me. And then I also closed out my Bit Farms. Closed out for 32 cents. I had paid 66 cents. So with Bit Farms, take a look at what happened with these crypto miners as well. So nothing was spared today. Look at this. So crypto miners, this one was down 13.19%. Is this likely an overreaction? Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, the market, you know, does what it does. You can't really argue with it. And we are still within this downward trend line, etc. So let's take a look at how crypto is doing. And I noticed like crypto is starting to get a little bit soft. I was like, let me get out of this. So I exited when Bitcoin was maybe down like less than 1%. But the dam just kind of broke. So yeah, Bitcoin down 5.46% now. And we had been consolidating for a couple days, just couldn't get that strength to move higher. And we finally got, you know, the resolution of this, you know, consolidation zone here. That being said, you know, I don't think this is like the worst either. So what's really interesting is the volatility's been insane. And the blowouts in a lot of these high valuation areas of the market have been insane. But like Bitcoin, it's still pretty elevated. It's at like 53K now. That's not really a big deal in the grand scheme of things. And we're down to the low end of the range. Dip buyers came in. So yeah, in these kinds of assets, we're not really seeing like crazy blowouts. Ethereum is down more, and it's closing below the key moving averages. So that is bearish. But again, we're just really inside of this range we've been in for the past couple of weeks. Let's take a look here. Some of these areas that ended up closing positive. Utilities, look at this. So utilities are up 1%. This doesn't look bad at all. Consumer staples, same thing. And I'm going to be doing some back tests this weekend of looking at, you know, elevated volatility, looking at these different combos of the dark index and dealer gamma. And I'll be posting those and talking about those in our weekend market analysis video. So definitely going to do a lot of testing just to see like what do the odds look like for next week. But yeah, right now definitely seeing, you know, mixed signals, but the tail risk, you know, it's definitely there. Let's take a look at the VIX. So the VIX, another, you know, interesting little points here. The VIX became super elevated. It got all the way up to 35, which is insane. So let's put that in context. Let's look at the weekly chart. Wow, so 35 VIX. Last time we got up there was, we got up there in January, and we got up there in October of 2020. So both really big sell-offs. I think this one was like right before the election. Yeah, and then you can see followed by huge red candles the following week. So very interesting. We'll have to see if that happens. Certainly doesn't have to, but yeah, the VIX is super elevated. What's interesting though is we did not close on a new high. So we closed below the close 2 days ago. It's just another little mini divergence, but yeah, we're still in this elevated volatility regime where you can really get hurt out here. And let's take a look here. We'll check out our options order flow for today. Let's see what that looked like. And at first glance, check this out. So we're seeing, you know, panic puts just being purchased across the board. The put to call ratio was above a 1 for the entire session. And let's take a look at our VIG Tech. Let's check it out here. There it is. Okay. So our options races, let's check this out. Let's see how much flow came in. Wow, still going. Jeez. A lot of flow. Look at Tesla, 6.4 billion. Wow. Okay, so 6.4 billion for Tesla, ton of flow. I'd imagine a lot more puts today. And then we have our typical candidates here on this list. I see Squares there, DocuSign. Let's take a look at some of these. So let's look at, first of all here, Tesla. Let's see what that one did. Yeah, Tesla fell to the bottom end of this range. So again, huge loss, down 6%, but still, within this range. Let's take a look here at our TradeScape. SPX, a mix of calls and puts. Interesting. But yeah, you can see more put flow than anything. SPXW, a ton of puts coming down. So yeah, people buying puts because they're forced to buy puts. Let's see here. Yeah, and I actually bought some puts as well, so check this out. So yeah, I took off UVXY, took off Bitfarms. I don't know why I forgot about this, but yeah, the SPY, I got long some December 3rd 457 puts, because I was like, this could get really ugly. This is at 9:53 a.m. Got long at for 247, and I closed those out for 445. So that was kind of like my saving grace for today. Got at least some put exposure on. And then I put on as like a hedge, just in case things get crazy for the next 2 weeks. I put on this 450 by 448 put spread into OPEX for 63 cents. So yeah, tail hedge, just in case we get something crazy. But yeah, it looks like, a lot of people buying puts, hedging themselves, etc. Look at this in the queues. Just a ton of put options. So overall, it's a good thing that there are a lot of players out there putting protection on. Let's see, Apple, overall positive flow. Facebook, huge call order here. So yeah, if you look at, oh my gosh, and DocuSign, geez, yeah, a lot of put flow there for sure. Square put flow. So yeah, overwhelming, put options today. Russell, almost all puts. So yeah, I think we're at a very interesting spot. I think both tails of this distribution are really fat. And yeah, if we get some good headlines over the weekend, like let's say for instance we get a headline, oh yeah, Omicron, it's not as bad as we thought. Then all of a sudden we could just see like a rip your face off rally on Monday. And we already started to see like into the end of the day, just how quickly the market can reclaim some of these levels. So with the SPY, we really saw that. So yeah, gonna be really interesting. I'm gonna make sure to do a ton of analysis this weekend. And again, I'm gonna be putting that out for Pristine Capital members in our weekend market analysis video. With that being said, hope you all have an awesome weekend. If you experience a tough situation over the past couple of weeks, just take some time off. Just relax over the weekend. Definitely make sure you're getting out of the house, that sort of thing. Just relax, get some exercise, the whole nine. With that being said, hope you all have an awesome rest of your evening, a good weekend, and I will see you all on Monday.